Who are you really? The ego is a pattern. More specifically, it's a collection of thoughts, feelings, stories, and behaviors that all started feeling like who you think you are. At one point, you created all these, something that happened to you when you were younger. Maybe you were a kid, you got rejected, an embarrassment. Maybe you came across a group you wanted to fit in. So your brain created a strategy, a protective pattern that kept you and keeps you stuck and created that identity just because something happened. After enough repetition, the identity started running automatically. And that is a problem when you're trying to improve, especially if you don't know about it. So what is the ego? The ego is a pattern. The ego, what does it need? It needs comparison, conflict, something to defend, and it's probably its old identity, your old identity. That's why I constantly ask questions like, am I ahead? Am I behind? Am I getting better? Am I worse than I used to be? Do they like me? Am I enough? The ego is always measuring, always comparing, always trying to protect a version of you that you built years ago. And because of that, it keeps your attention locked on negative things like fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of losing control. Some of us enjoy losing control. Definitely fear of not being enough for everyone around us. But here's what most people never realize. The ego is not who you are. It's who you practice becoming, practice being, whether it's old or new, that's who it is. It is a conditioned pattern, a well-conditioned pattern. He's ripped. It's just the old movie. How about the old automatic response? So that gets us in trouble a lot of times. Comment automatic, if you understand that. It could be a familiar identity in certain circumstances. The brain always repeats. It always tries to keep you in the familiar, even when the familiar is limiting you. And that's why people stay stuck. Not because we're broken, not because we're lazy. It just feels normal. The ego wants certainty, and growth requires uncertainty. The ego wants control. It takes it, doesn't ask. But growth requires trust. Because the ego wants to stay the same, growth requires becoming someone new. So you got to get the ego to trust you. So the goal is not to fight the ego. Your goal is to stop believing every story it tells you. You need to question it. You need to notice when it's telling an old story. You need to notice it. Then you need to interrupt it. Then you need to replace that interruption. And of course, you need to keep repeating it over and over again, because patterns are never defeated or forced. New patterns can't be forced. Old patterns can't be just conquered, because they'll stay there. You have to subplant them. Take one old one out, put a new one in, and then eventually something interesting happens to all of us. You start to realize, as you continue to hear this over and over again, keep listening to all my reels, they're short. Because when you do that, you'll start to realize that you never were the fear you had. You never were the old story. You never were the pattern. You were the one observing the difference. You're the one observing the old and knowing about the new. Once you realize that, you can start rebuilding the ego. And when can you start rebuilding your ego? You can start rebuilding your ego today.